What is happening, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we have ourselves the latest edition of BOBOVR hardware. This time it's the charging dock for the Quest 2. Not only that, but it also charges a single M2 Pro battery, which is going to be a pretty fantastic option if you're already invested in the BOBOVR ecosystem. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. Once again, it's a nice small compact box. Inside we'll find the manual, two cup holders. I'm kidding, these are for your controllers, just something to place them on. A Type-C to Type-C cable, and finally the dock, and what seems like a grippy surface, which we'll find out what it's used for. And lastly, we have the three-way magnetic interface that will actually attach to the Quest 2 and allow you to not only charge it, but also charge it without taking off the cable, so you can just go ahead and drop it in like so. Very cool. The cable here is about 3 feet long and it's pretty decent. And the manual quickly outlines how to use this thing and what things are meant for, so it should be a pretty straightforward experience. It can handle 3 amps in and 3 amps out, which is perfect. And here's a quick look at the controller docks. As you can see, it's just a nice little rubber with a bit of branding, and you just drop these on and just lay your controllers on there just to have a nice little place to place them on. Now, as for the dock itself, it turns out this is actually not just a non-slip surface, but it's also a double-sided kind of sticky surface to stop your headset from pulling the actual dock when undocking it. So it's said to take off this thing, just place it right down here for the optimal performance. So let's go and unpeel that. And let's go ahead and choose a nice place right here. All right, it does give it some wobble, so maybe cut 2 small pieces and place them right down here. Let's actually go ahead and do that real quick. All right, and now it's nice and stable and it's not going anywhere. There is no wobble whatsoever. Very nice. All right, so let's go ahead and first off test out the battery, followed by the headset. It's nice and snug. The magnetic system works perfectly fine. And yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's pretty stable. Really like how it looks. But before we go ahead and plug it in, let's go ahead and cover these up and see how it would perform without the double-sided rubber. So let's drop that in. And yeah, it's gonna lift the whole thing. As if you're just using a headset. Yeah, it's gonna be the same thing. So I'm guessing to cut costs, they didn't use any kind of weighted base. Instead, they just gave you this little double-sided rubber, which if you guys don't know, this type of material, if it gets dirty, you can just go ahead and wash it and the dirt will fall off, but the sticky material will still work. In my opinion, it does the job as long as you do what I've done here. And if you want, you can go ahead and split it one more time and have a piece on each edge. The only thing I can think of would have been like suction cups, but it wouldn't work on every material. Like this bamboo table would simply not stick with a suction cup. So this method is cost effective and it works perfectly fine. Yep, we got some peel therapy. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in, test it out, and we'll be back in just a bit. And we are back. So I went ahead and tested it out, read through the manual, and compared my findings with the manual, and everything lines up. So here's what I found. First off, the system itself works very well with the ecosystem of BOBOVR, especially if you have the M2 Pro, which of course comes with the B2 battery. The B2 battery is this thing right here. And if you happen to have both systems, then you're basically going to have the most optimal experience. Since of course, this is mostly designed to go hand in hand with the M2 Pro, hence the extra battery charger right here. First off, you'll hear one beep when plugging it in, and there will be an extra beep for each device. And if you take a look at the side here, we can see that there are 3 indicators. The one on the right is the power indicator, indicating power is flowing through the dock. The one in the middle is for the B2 battery, and lastly, the headset all the way on the left. And as the headset and the battery reach 100%, then these 2 indicators will turn off individually. And apparently, if you leave it for 24 hours, the dock will actually power up, check the headset, check the battery to see if it's still topped off, and top it off before turning off back again, and repeating the same thing in the next 24 hours. Which is a pretty cool feature if you're not always using your headset. But at that point, if you're not using your headset that much, then why even get the dock? Now some of you might be asking, why isn't there more detail on the charging indicator? Well, first off, you can see here the headset does have a charging indicator right here, and it changes color as it goes. And the same goes for the B2 battery. It has 4 charging indicators, so 25, 50, 75, 100%. Now you're probably wondering, what happens if you go ahead and plug in a battery strap into the headset while it's docked with a D2? Well, first of all, it is actually not supported by the dock, and instead recommends you actually take off the battery when charging the headset into the dock. Now, thankfully, if you are using the M2 Pro, then it's going to be a very straightforward experience. It is magnetic. You can just easily take it off and on. Now, I've already discussed this matter with them, and they have told me they're already working on a fix, and we might see that in a future revision. But for now, the D2 does not support having a battery strap plugged in into the headset while it is docked. Now, what is supposed to happen according to the manual, as well as in many of the tests that I've done, is that the actual dock should detect and automatically shut off power to the headset. Now, we could do that by trying this out here. Sometimes it detects, sometimes it doesn't, so the best course of action is just unplug the battery, just to be safe. Now, if you're interested in what's going on, we do have my USB Type-C reader here. We can go ahead and plug that in, and you can see that there's power being pushed through and going out to the B2 battery. Now, if we go ahead and plug in the B2 battery, what should happen, it should actually start reversing and pushing power through, as you can see here. So that's just how it is. If you have an M2 Pro, it's going to be a very easy experience thanks to the magnetic battery. But if you're using any other strap, it really doesn't even make sense to buy the dock altogether. You'll be missing out on the extra battery feature, and you'll have to unplug and charge the actual strap by itself. So it doesn't make sense buying the dock here if you have an Elite strap. Which, wink wink, someone is working on another Elite strap. Gee, I wonder who. Now you're probably thinking here the video is over, but it's not. We're going to actually go ahead and take it apart and see what it looks like on the inside. Alright, so here's what we have here. First off, we have the magnetic cable going right here to the headset. Then we have the LED power indicator. Right here we have the charging port, as well as the custom PCB board. That looks to be pretty nicely designed, pretty well engineered, and is very thought out. Right here we have two magnets that look like they are just laying there, and that can be an issue, of course, if they're not being held down, and I checked, and they are being held down by these 2 points right here. Would have been nice if they added a small piece of double-sided adhesive just to kind of keep it in place in case anyone opens it up, but it should be perfectly fine because you really don't need to open it up unless you're doing some kind of mod. Maybe you're adding some RGB, and that's where we can find the B2 battery charging pins. Pretty straightforward, works very nicely, and we can see that it's manufactured 2021-07-30. And with that said, let's go ahead and put it back together and conclude this video. And so, the conclusion, should you get the dock? Is it worth the price? And what's the most optimal setup? Well, when it comes to the optimal setup, it's going to definitely be with the M2 Pro with two B2 batteries. One in the dock, and one in the headset ready to go at all times. Any other head strap and it's not going to be worth the price. The dock here is mostly made for convenience, and if you have two batteries, which is currently only available in the M2 Pro, then it makes perfect sense to get the dock, as it will make your life a whole lot easier. You don't need the dock to use the M2 Pro, but it's there for convenience and looks. So that being said, that is all for this video, so thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.